Yo, what's up? It's your boy Lamar's, and yes, I am still playing Palworld. I've been having a pretty good time. I play on hard mode with the default settings, and I haven't changed any settings since I've started playing. So, at about 90 hours of gameplay with a couple restarts, I'm around level 36. I figured since I'm playing the game so slow, I might as well continue the trend of trying to make it better, or at least giving my opinions, takes, and examples of situations that can make the game better. And in light of that, I've compiled a handful of glitches I've experienced in the last week of playing Palworld. Popping right into it, I've experienced a series of glitches where pals will either clip out of the base or clip into some weird area of the base. And one of the funniest examples is when I was flying back into the base and I see my Pin King floating on top of some trees, and he's real hungry, and that's usually the main giveaway, right? Let's say you just spawned into your base or came back to the base and you see on the base info in the top right of that one of the pals is hungry or starving or isn't in a good mood or they broke an ankle or something, and you don't really understand why that is, considering the other pals are perfectly fine and operating as they always have. So I found that usually the reason these pals are in a non-good condition is because they've clipped out of the base into some random position, whether that's on top of trees, stuck behind walls, stuck in staircases, or just stuck altogether. I've even found that this glitch can evolve, and I've had the opportunity to witness a pal actually hurting itself. As you can see, this Tombat spawns in and immediately falls, or it looks like it falls from some kind of infinite height, and so it immediately goes into being incapacitated. Like it hit his head on the board. I feel like that's what's commonly happening. Even when I started on the first server I played on, I had a lot of pals that kept breaking their legs or spraining their ankles, and I found that if the base doesn't have a lot of flat surfaces or strong foundation built around it, and it's just a natural base with some hills and rocks here and there, it seems like the chances for pals to clip out or just get hurt walking into the random meshes is more likely. What's really odd about it is that even when I tried to investigate how the PAL could have gotten in some of these positions, such as this Wixen in the wall, I can't figure out what's nearby that could have made it happen. Maybe the Wixen was igniting the fire sources below it, but that doesn't really explain how it got into the wall above it, considering it isn't that tall. But either way, this glitch is not the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely annoying and tedious when you are hopping between different bases, because it's almost as if every time you teleport to a different base, the entire base spawns in when you teleport, which is weird considering it's one complete world with no instances outside of the dungeons. This next one was really random. I almost feel like this has to be some kind of hidden tech if you want to speed run the game to clip into things. I was placing a wall torch over this workbench, and I don't know if I was trying to build it and I just couldn't get the menu to pop up or it wouldn't interact. But when I hopped onto the bench, I grabbed the wall instead, and in trying to get off of the wall, I somehow slided right into the workbench. And once inside, I pressed every key I could possibly press to try to get out, but it seems like there wasn't really any option to get me out, and I just became one with the bench. And so the only way to get out was to force kill myself, which I try to avoid doing when I'm in a lot of glitch situations, just because it's pretty annoying to run back to get your items. But since this one was in my base, it really wasn't any problem. The next set of glitches is fairly common and happens in a variety of different ways. I call it either zombie pals or just frozen pals, but essentially pals in the base will just freeze, or they'll begin a task that it seems like they can't complete, so they'll just stand still. Like here, where pals are all trying to transport something beyond this wall. I'm not sure what it is they're looking for, but for some reason they're all convinced that it's there and they're trying to get to it. It's random for the most part, and it comes in a couple different shapes and sizes. One time I was just working on the base, and I guess it was transitioning into the morning time, so a bunch of pals woke up really hungry, and as you can see, some of them ran to get the food and the others began to follow me, and I tried leading them to the food box. Most of them didn't want it. The Tombat was the only one that actually came to the food box once lured, but the others, they just kept following me around like zombies, almost as if to say I should feed them directly, like he's specifically frustrated with me for not feeding them. But yeah, this was a weird one. I haven't been able to replicate it, but breaking the feed box and putting it back where it was seems to fix the problem. There was this other wild time where I was raided by Syndicate elites, and I created somewhat of a bottleneck to get into the base. I didn't do this intentionally. It just happened when I was naturally developing the base. And right before the raid started, a bunch of pals got stuck on this staircase. I could tell they were trying to get to the food below the staircase, but normally they're able to eat through walls. So I was confused as to why this is happening now. But when the raid started, that got their attention and all chaos ensued. What's funny about this is that if you look closely, you'll see that because of the lack of space and chaos, it seems like one of the syndicates was thrown 1,000 feet into the air, and a bunch of other wild interactions happened because they were getting hit from so many different directions. And this actually led to another POW zombie glitch slash POWs getting stuck trying to get to something they can't reach glitch because one of the syndicates actually clipped into the wall. So this at least gave me one example that if there are a lot of entities in one space, something's going to get clipped into a wall, which I really feel like isn't a big deal and it's kind of funny, but it still doesn't explain why the POWs sometimes stand in corners when there isn't any clear item or entity that they're trying to get to. And speaking of raiders being stuck in walls, I'm not sure if this is really considered a glitch or really a feature for when you have a raid and the raiders can't actually reach the area your POW box is at. So when they come to the base, they just end up walking into the wall or trying to walk towards it in the best way they can. But if they can't actually scale up the base, then they just won't attack and they'll be focused on getting up to their base. I mean, it's an easy way to farm EXP or farm items when there's raids for all of the raids that can't jump or aren't aerial. But I feel like it would be good if the AI could be developed to be smart enough to still attack or just find some means to continue in the raid instead of just getting stuck on the wall because it, you know, it makes the raid feature seem a little jank. So just generally speaking, if the AI could be made smarter to circumvent the situation from happening, it'll also increase the difficulty of the game because right now you really can't just cheese raids by building up on a elevated platform. This one's real crazy. You know, when I normally play games and I watch videos on them, I usually see other people stumbling into these types of glitches. I rarely stumble into these types of glitches myself, but I walked up to this furnace to get the ingot out and I somehow picked up the incineram. So I threw them down and I guess pressing X, which is just a universal interaction button. I don't know what I was trying to interact with specifically, if it was the ingots or if it was trying to get incineram off of the furnace, but it called over my mount and well, yeah, that's just wow. I don't know. This is kind of game breaking in a way, in the sense of I feel like anytime a T-post pops up, that means either something's incomplete or an error occurred that was just not supposed to happen. So I think if you try to pick up a POW and also ride a mount, it will recreate this glitch. I haven't tried to recreate it myself, but clearly this is completely game breaking because I mean, T-posing on top of a mount while holding a POW is crazy. It seems like they just didn't create any animations for this feature or any interactions for it at all because I couldn't move, but the game was trying to make this happen. This next one is really wild too. Couldn't replicate it under any circumstance and it was completely unexpected. I can't even fathom what will lead to something like this. So as you can see, my dire wolf is fighting off a pack of dire wolves and mid-fight, somehow all the dire wolves respawn. Never seen anything like that since I've been playing, where POWs will just come back from death. And when they respawn, they were literally like zombies, or they were just undead. Couldn't throw them into the POW balls, couldn't damage them because they didn't have any HP. And eventually they just decided to die. Yeah, that was random. And the whole time, my dire wolf didn't attack them because I guess it registered them as being dead. But that's crazy. Next set of glitches is fairly common, and it is actually rooted in a system that I don't think is a glitch, but has been overlooked as an outcome of one of the game systems, which is when you attempt to capture a POW and you throw them into the ball, once they come out of the ball, they come out in a higher position than where they were thrown in. And so it creates an opportunity where you can like do an infinite floating of POWs you're trying to catch over and over again, where you just keep throwing the balls at them and they'll keep going higher and higher in the sky. But if you do this in an area where there's a ceiling, the POWs will just clip through the ceiling when they come out, which is very interesting, very cool. I feel like there's definitely some way to reverse engineer this to clip characters into walls. And if there's ever some speed running community that's developed for this game, I can see stuff like this becoming useful. But generally speaking, it's fairly game breaking from an immersion standpoint. And although it's funny, there probably should be something done about this, because I feel like if the game is attempting to be difficult and you can just throw power balls at a POW that keeps coming out of the previous ball you threw it at until you catch it without it ever hitting the ground. And that just seems like a weird concept that does not mesh well with the immersion or reality of what this game is trying to be. Oh, this one is really silly. It was just a normal night out hunting, trying to catch this pal by surprise with a power shot, and the power shot completely disappeared. I have seen something similar happen with power shot many times, where the skill would just float around or try to home in to hit the pal, but I've never seen it completely disappear like this and then repeatedly come in and out of existence until it hits the pal. But that was silly yet effective. Honestly, I hope they don't fix this, just because I feel like it's working as intended. They probably should just develop the visuals of it so that it makes more sense, so it doesn't go in and out of existence. Instead, it just circles around until it hits the pal, because I think it's a pretty cool skill, but in this context, it just caught me completely off guard. Now, this glitch happens to me quite often when I'm trying to scale a mountain or trying to scale anything large, and there's a point where there's like a slope or a steep slope or hill that goes into a wall and you get stuck in it and just infinitely float. This is a very scary glitch to experience when you're in an area you're really not supposed to be in, because you die here, or you have to die here in order to get out. One, it's going to be hard to get your items back, and then two, the journey to get back to where you're at is going to be almost impossible depending on which pals you dropped, if you don't have that many flying pals or mobile pals in general, or if it's just a dangerous biome where the temperatures are deadly, the pals are deadly, and there's no way to warp back, and one of the warp stones is nowhere near the location. So yeah, this happens a lot. Maybe if they could find some way for us to, I don't know, catapult out of the ground or something so that we don't get stuck infinitely falling, or even if there was some way for them to create a detection of when this happens and it just resets your character to stand still. I don't know. Not a game developer. I do appreciate some of the realism of the landscapes in the game, and I recognize this as just a minor shortcoming of those landscapes. You know, I really do appreciate the lack of invisible walls in the game. And maybe this just comes with it, because I recognize that a lot of games have invisible walls so that, well, one, probably out of laziness, but then two, so that you can't get stuck in weird places, such as this. I think the reward outweighs the risk in this situation. This is another one of those unexpected and random glitches, because it looks like very normal gameplay. You see there's a pack of dire wolves attacking something, and you get closer, you see it's a Chris, and it's gone. I was hoping it would come back down. I don't know if it's still going up, or if it's even to this day, if it's up there, one day hoping to land. But this is just wild, because all it took was similar to the base raid chaos I had earlier. It seems like if there are just too many entities in the spawn spot, something's gonna pop. And in this situation, it was the Chris. And ironically, much later after I experienced that glitch, I was fighting two monsters, and in my failure to avoid the wind-up punch they do, not only is it an instant shield and armor break, they also hit me so hard that I got clipped into the ground. But yeah, so far, those are a couple of glitches I've encountered, some more often than not, especially when it comes to base-related glitches. I feel like every time I go to a base, there's some random interaction that's occurring that I have to micromanage. And it's not the worst thing in the world from the standpoint of longer gameplay, but it does get a little bit tedious when you're trying to get something done really quickly, because it's like, I came here to fix this one issue, or I came here to upgrade this one item, and now I gotta play base micromanager, or really base detective, and figure out what is the problem this time. But yeah, once again, thanks for watching. Definitely got some more Palworld stuff coming soon, but right now I'm really addicted and immersed in the experience, and I'm trying to enjoy it as long as I can before it gets to that point of, well, I've done everything, so what now? Remember, life is good. Brush your teeth, wash your face, tell somebody close to you that you love them, and I'm gonna see you next time. Peace.